Now, who has influenced you the most, musically, all of you?
The three Bs. The Beatles, Byrds, and Buffalo Springfield.
And Springfield?
Yeah. Buffalo Springfield.
Buffalo Springfield.
Yeah.
Tell me, yeah, explain this to me. I feel like 108 years old.
No, that's probably for the better.
Tell my plastic surgeon. Go on.
No, they were a folk rock group in the 60s.
The Bangles, the all-female rock band that dominated the 80s, seemed unstoppable. But suddenly, it all came crashing down. Now, the untold story behind their unexpected breakup is coming to light, exposing the bitter feuds, personal struggles, and creative clashes that tore the band apart. Join us as we uncover what ended the Bangles and the drama that followed. Vicki and Debbie Peterson were born in Northridge, a suburb of Los Angeles near the San Fernando Valley, during the early 1960s, with a significant age gap between them. Their upbringing was shaped by their parents, as their dad was employed as an aerospace engineer, and their mom worked as a model and assistant to Congressman Glenn Anderson. Music was a constant presence in their household, with songs playing on the intercom system, fostering the sisters' passion for music at a young age. Vicki had a strong love for music, often spending long hours in her room listening to records and practicing guitar. In contrast, Debbie, who was more interested in performing, would mimic musicians with hairbrushes and drum along to songs. Even though they both shared a passion for music, their personalities were distinctly different. Debbie was composed and devoted to her studies, while Vicki was determined to pursue a career in music, paying little attention to academics. During her 9th grade year, Vicki decided to start her band. While her peers were into 70s rock music, Vicki had a preference for 60s bands like The Hollies, The Byrds, Love, and The Beatles, aspiring to create music similar to theirs. When the band needed a drummer, Vicki bought a drum set for Debbie, who agreed to reimburse her from her earnings at McDonald's. The sisters tried out different names for their band before finally deciding on the unique Cuckoo and the Doo Doo Heads back in 1980. While this was happening, Vicki was pursuing her English studies at UCLA and sharing a living space with Debbie and another member of the band. Despite their best efforts, they struggled to achieve the harmonies they had in mind. Debbie later admitted that it was difficult to find musicians with the right vocal skills they were looking for. They were on the lookout for the ideal bandmates during the emergence of the Paisley underground music scene in Los Angeles, which embraced the influences and fashion of the 1960s. Susanna Hoffs, a key figure in the scene, collaborated with David Roback from Mazzy Star in various bands while they were in college. Hoffs came from a well-off family, with parents who studied at prestigious universities before moving to Los Angeles. Her father was a psychotherapist, and her mother had a career in Hollywood as a writer and director. Hoffs stated that her upbringing was influenced by a non-religious, cerebral, artistic environment. She started playing the guitar in elementary school, and her passion for music grew when her sibling introduced her to bands such as the Ramones, Blondie, and Talking Heads. Attending performances by Patti Smith and witnessing the Pistols' last concert in 1978 solidified her choice to pursue a career in music. The untimely passing of John Lennon in 1980 was the final motivation for her to fully dedicate herself to music. After completing her studies at UC Berkeley in 1981, Hoffs came across an advertisement in The Recycler, searching for musicians to join a band. The ad was placed by a roommate of the Peterson sisters, who later left the group. Upon contacting the number in the ad, Hoffs got in touch with one of the Peterson sisters, and the two quickly bonded over their mutual admiration for music from the 1960s and their sorrow for Lennon's passing. They decided to form a band and began practicing in Hoffs's garage. Looking back on those early days, Hoffs admitted to feeling anxious and compared the experience to taking a plunge into the unknown. Vicki Peterson expressed her annoyance at the difficulty of finding reliable band members, as she had previously worked with musicians who were not dedicated and would show up to practice more interested in their textbooks than the music. The group tried out different names, beginning as The Colours, influenced by British bands, then switching to the Supersonic Bangs after reading about a popular hairstyle from the 60s. Finally, they decided on the Bangs as their permanent name. In 1981, Hoffs personally handed the band's debut single, Getting Out of Hand, to DJ Rodney Bingenheimer at KROQ Radio, where it received airtime. This led to the band gaining more recognition and eventually adding bassist Annette Zelinskas to the lineup. The band's big break came when they performed at a No Magazine benefit show. Although initially worried about the audience's response to their 60s-influenced music, they were pleasantly surprised to see skinheads enthusiastically slam dancing to songs by the Seeds. The music of the Bangs incorporated elements of folk, pop, and rock inspired by the Beatles, the Byrds, Buffalo Springfield, and garage bands. Their vocal harmonies led to them being dubbed the Mamas and the Mamas. As their fan base expanded, they attracted the interest of Miles Copeland, who offered them a contract with his record label, Faulty Records. Nevertheless, the band was hesitant about being promoted as imitators of the Go-Go's, a group also under Copeland's management. In 1982, right before putting out a 5-song EP, the group had to switch their name to the Bangles because another band with the same name on the East Coast threatened to sue them. Despite being required to do so, Vicky shared her frustration at having to give up the name they had initially selected. Despite their rocky start, how were they able to rise to stardom? What helped them become very famous quickly? The Bangles had started their first tour by performing as the opening act for the British ska punk group English Beat, but it was not a luxurious experience. The crowd displayed their hostility by throwing various objects like gum and milk cartons at the band, along with making disrespectful gestures. The band later characterized the ordeal as a learning opportunity in building strength and resilience. Unfortunately, their music label had gone out of business while they were touring. Fortunately, Columbia Records had expressed interest in adding them to their roster. Despite the chance, the band was careful and skeptical of the music industry. Vicki Peterson later shared with the Washington Post that when they signed with Columbia, they were so suspicious that she brought a tape recorder to meetings. This was because they had heard negative stories, and having controlled their careers for a while, they were always cautious about being taken advantage of. The media focused on the all-female makeup of the band, often drawing parallels to the Go-Go's. Despite publicly playing down these comparisons, Susanna Hoffs eventually confessed in an interview with Quaypoint that she had always admired the Go-Go's and the concept of collaborating with other women in the music industry. After signing with Columbia, the Bangles opted not to publicize the news to their original fans, concerned that it could push them away. At the same time, there was a significant change in the band's lineup. Annette Zelinskas, the bassist, made the decision to leave and join her boyfriend's cowpunk band, Blood on the Saddle. Zelinskas also desired a more significant singing role, a proposition that was met with resistance from the other band members. In her absence, Michael Steele, a new roommate of the Peterson sisters, was brought in as her replacement. Steele had previous experience playing with the Runaways and had previously made a vow never to be a part of another all-female group. However, after listening to the Bangles' music, she had a change of heart. Interestingly, the band had considered several male musicians for the position before ultimately deciding on Steele. The Bangles quickly became linked with the Paisley underground scene, a style that mixes psychedelic rock with 80s alternative music. Spin magazine reported that they were the first band from this movement to reach widespread popularity. Columbia had brought in producer David Kahn to collaborate on the Bangles' first album. However, the production was challenging. Debbie Peterson had confided in Billy DeYoung about feeling tormented by Kana. She remembered a moment while recording Going Down to Liverpool when Kana had pushed her to the point of tears by making her repeat the first line continuously. Despite the hardships faced during the recording, the band recognized Connie's expertise in vocal arrangements and his ability to assign the right parts to each singer. Prior to the album coming out, the record label had made a conscious decision to give the band a makeover, focusing on making them more appealing to audiences and highlighting their feminine qualities. Hoffs later discussed this transformation in a conversation with journalist Billy DeYoung, remembering how their glamorized appearance was influenced by external factors. She confessed that they were not assertive enough to resist these suggestions, ultimately succumbing to trends like voluminous hair. In the face of these obstacles, the first album by the Bangles was praised, played on college radio, and successful in Europe. This led to them being chosen as the opening act for a popular artist like Cyndi Lauper. The band had been touring extensively, leaving them with little time to work on new songs for their next album by the summer of 1985. However, this wasn't the end of the Bangles' fame. They experienced several early breakthroughs, But this success came with its share of controversies. When they started working on their second album, Columbia insisted that the Bangles collaborate with David Kahn once more. The band had not realized that they had the option to select a different producer. Kahn tried to reassure them by saying that he had evolved and that things would be better this time around, but it turned out to be untrue. In the meantime, Prince became interested in the band's first album. During a show in Los Angeles in 1985, he even performed with them on stage. Shortly after, he sent them a demo containing 2 tracks called Jealous Girl and Manic Monday, and allowed them to choose one for their upcoming album. The Bangles decided to go with Manic Monday, but made some changes to the bridge and chords to suit their style. The band did not realize the song's importance initially. Debbie Peterson mentioned to Billy DeYoung that she thought recording the song would be easy. This perception changed when the producer, Connie, dedicated an extensive amount of time to mixing the song compared to the other tracks. Manic Monday was the song that brought the band into the limelight, attracting attention from both radio and MTV. It was the first track released from the album and reached a high position at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. Credited under the name Christopher, which was Prince's alias from the movie Under the Cherry Moon, the song gained widespread popularity. The rumors circulating about a possible relationship between Prince and Susanna Hoffs were quickly taken advantage of by the record label for promotional purposes. Despite this, both the band and Prince's representatives denied any truth to the speculation. Although Manic Monday was considered a hit, it was not the most popular song on the album. The real standout was Walk Like an Egyptian, which was written by Liam Sternberg. Initially meant for MCA Records, the song was turned down before finding its way to Columbia. David Kahn had discovered the demo, enjoyed it, and shared it with the Bangles. The band experienced internal conflicts while recording the song. Due to the short length of the track, Debbie Peterson's part was removed by Kahn, and she did not play drums on it. Debbie felt pressure to live up to Kahn's standards. Additionally, Vicki Peterson was also excluded from some parts of the recording, as Kahn opted to bring in a session guitarist for the solo on September Girls. Hoffs later suggested that Kahn's technique was influenced by his past experiences as a musician who did not succeed. She mentioned to Billy DeYoung that she used to believe producing was challenging, but she also believed that Connie's meticulousness was fueled by his dreams that never came true. The second album of the band, Different Light, was a huge hit in the United States with 3 million copies sold. However, as the band rose to fame, the media began to highlight Susanna Hoffs as the main singer and downplayed the other members' contributions. Eventually, the media only wanted to interview and take photos of Hoffs, while Columbia Records pushed for singles where her vocals were featured prominently. Hoffs later expressed her frustration to Rolling Stone, feeling that the band's success was a result of all members working together. In 1987, Hoffs appeared in a movie called The All-Nighter, which was written and directed by her mother. Although the film was not successful, it solidified her image as the frontwoman of the Bangles in the eyes of the public. The next year, the band recorded a version of Simon and Garfunkel's A Hazy Shade of Winter for the Less Than Zero soundtrack. This song, which was popular during their early performances, reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. When the band started working on their third album, Everything, they chose to work with David Sigerson instead of David Kahn, seeking a more laid-back producer. The pressures of touring and media attention had strained their relationships. Hoffs confided in Billy DeYoung that they found it difficult to communicate openly, often choosing to remain silent instead of discussing their problems. In order to reduce conflicts, additional songwriters from outside were enlisted for the album, such as ex-Kiss guitarist Vinnie Vincent and the songwriting team Billy Steinberg and Tom Kelly. One of the tracks created was Eternal Flame, which was influenced by a trip to Graceland where the band discovered the memorial flame dedicated to Elvis Presley. Hoffs remembered that it rained that day, and when they inquired about the pool of water, they were informed it was the eternal flame that had momentarily extinguished. Initially, the band members were hesitant about the song, especially Vicki Peterson, who did not feel a strong connection to it. She thought it was a good pop song, but not quite in line with the Bangles' style. Despite their doubts, the song ended up being a massive success, reaching number 1 in 9 different countries and setting a new record as the top-selling single by an all-female group. Even though the album was a hit, conflicts continued to arise. In an interview with the Sun-Sentinel, Hoffs mentioned that although she was pleased with everything, the making of the album was challenging. The band operated more as individuals rather than a cohesive unit, leading each member to believe that their input was undervalued. Though they had reached new heights, the cracks in the Bangles foundation had become too deep to ignore. But would this mark the end of the band? Prior to embarking on their tour for the new album, the Bangles' Debbie Peterson tied the knot with Steve Botting, a sound engineer for the band. Unfortunately, Susanna Hoffs and Michael Steele were absent at the wedding, causing Debbie emotional distress and intensifying the rifts within the group. Before embarking on their tour, the band made a crucial choice that ultimately backfired. They terminated their longtime manager, Miles Copeland. They believed that Copeland's attention was too concentrated on his more prominent clients, and he was neglecting their needs and failing to resolve their internal disagreements. In his place, they brought in new managers, Arnold Stiefel and Randy Phillips. Yet, right from the beginning, the new management strategies only intensified the conflicts among the band members. Stiefel and Phillips consistently encouraged Hoffs to pursue a solo path, insisting she could succeed without the band. This pressure further fractured the relationships within the group. Additionally, they were subject to intense media scrutiny as an all-female band, dealing with baseless allegations of not performing their music or playing instruments. In 1989, the Los Angeles Times released a piece outlining the main points of attack against the band. They were criticized for being labeled as mere imitators of 60s music, a lesser version of the Go-Go's, and disconnected from current trends in music. Some critics also faulted them for not being more vocal about feminist issues, while others accused them of being overly suspicious. Despite facing these criticisms and facing internal conflicts, the band carried on with their tour and promotion of their album, Everything. On their last journey, conflict escalated drastically. Debbie disclosed in a conversation with Billy DeYoung that they all experienced intense stomach pains, worrying that they might be getting ulcers due to the pressure. Michael, especially, was finding it hard, frequently oversleeping as a result of feeling depressed. The band went to a management meeting in September 1989, during which Susanna surprised everyone by announcing her decision to pursue a solo career and stop recording with the Bangles. The news came as a shock, considering how successful their hit song Eternal Flame had been just half a year ago. After the split, each band member took different paths. Vicki Peterson relocated to New Orleans and became a member of the Continental Drifters before reuniting with the Go-Go's for their 1994-1995 tour. Susanna released her first solo album, When You're a Boy, in March 1991. However, the album did not do well commercially, reaching only number 83 on the charts. During a VH1 interview on Behind the Music, she acknowledged that her solo career was more challenging than anticipated, as there was greater pressure to succeed compared to her time in the Bangles, where responsibilities were more evenly divided. Over time, Susanna started to feel remorseful about her choice to depart from the band and started contemplating a reunion. Debbie and Vicki were unsure at first, while Michael, still recovering from the breakup, was not prepared to come back. Her challenges intensified when her father was diagnosed with cancer in 1993, eventually succumbing to the illness in 1998. Just 1 year later, her mother also passed away. In 1993, Susanna tied the knot with filmmaker Jay Roach, whom she met on a blind date. Roach, who went on to achieve success in Hollywood, played a vital part in bringing the Bangles back together. The band first started experiencing tension because the media was focusing too much on Hoffs as the lead singer, even though all members had equal vocal responsibilities and helped with songwriting. When the band eventually disbanded in 1989, the divide amongst the members had been growing for a long time. Following their split, Hoffs focused on her solo music endeavors as Vicki Peterson stayed active touring with the Continental Drifters and making occasional appearances with the Go-Go's. Michael Steele became a member of a band called Crash Wisdom, where they showcased tracks such as Nickel Romeo and Between the Two. Despite the cracks, the band was able to find their way back together, but were they able to sustain the same level of fame as before? In 1998, the Bangles members began to rebuild their connections, gradually coming together once again. Their official reunion occurred after movie director Jay Roach, who was married to Susanna Hoffs since 1993, invited them to contribute a song to the soundtrack of Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. The band decided to record the track Get the Girl, which was made available in 1999. The meeting did not end after a single song. The Bangles hit the road in 2000, demonstrating their continued relevance. In that period, they received recognition for their contribution to music history by being inducted into the Vocal Group Hall of Fame. Motivated by their revived spirit, the group spent time in the studio from 2001 to 2002, creating a fresh album called Doll Revolution at Icon Recording Studios in Hollywood, California. The record included a variety of songs like Stealing Rosemary, Ride the Ride, Nickel Romeo, and the hit track, Something That You Said. Doll Revolution was launched in the beginning of 2003 and gained success in Germany, thanks in part to the band's feature on the popular TV show Wetten, Das. However, the album did not achieve the same level of success in countries like the US, the UK, and Australia. In 2004, the group was given a unique recognition by Paul McCartney, who awarded them with honorary rock and roll diplomas from his school in Liverpool in appreciation of their musical achievements. In spite of their triumphant return, conflicts emerged among the band members. Michael Steele opted to depart in 2005 because of disputes related to touring and recording. Abby Travis stepped in as the new bassist for live shows. The Bangles welcomed the new year in 2006 with a memorable performance in Times Square. Unfortunately, Travis was dismissed from the group by 2008. In 2009, the Bangles decided to continue creating music and headed back into the studio to start on a fresh album. On September 27, 2011, the band introduced Sweetheart of the Sun and then set off on a tour during the same year, hitting various regions including the East Coast, Midwest, and West Coast. During their performances, the Bangles had supporting acts like the rock band Antigone Rising and the power pop group A Fragile Tomorrow. In December 2013, the band joined forces with 3 other Paisley Underground bands, the Dream Syndicate, the 3 O'Clock, and Rain Parade, for 2 special concerts at the Fillmore in San Francisco and the Fonda Theater in Los Angeles. The shows were a trip down memory lane for the band, as they promised to dust off songs they hadn't played in 3 decades. The next month, in January 2014, they performed at the Whiskey A Go-Go in West Hollywood, California, in honor of the venue's 50th anniversary. In 2014, Annette Zelinskas, the original bassist, began making appearances at certain live shows with the band. Then in 2018, she officially rejoined the group, marking the first time all 4 original members had played together since 1983. That same year, the band released 3 new songs as part of a compilation album called 3x4, which also included other bands from the Paisley Underground concert in 2013. After initially being released exclusively for Record Store Day on psychedelic swirl purple vinyl, Yep Rock Records later made the album available on LP, CD, and digital platforms in February 2019. The 4 bands reunited for a special performance at the Grammy Museum in May 2019. During their travels, the Bangles made a lasting impact on the music world. Their combination of catchy pop melodies and powerful rock vibes played a key role in shaping a particular period, and their reach went beyond just their most popular songs. Starting out in the music scene of Los Angeles, they showed strength, skill, and music that never went out of style. Despite spending many years in the business, their influence continued to motivate both musicians and fans who came after them. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.